think we did a little bit of
Wait, no, we already did B over here.
Did we?
Yeah,
we did.
Start.
Okay.
I think we're on C. I think we're on C.
Yeah, we did.
We were about to start doing 5 is what I remember.
Really? We already did D and C?
I don't remember. My bookmark is on C. Like maybe we hadn't gotten.
Yeah, I remember.
Kawa kirei de yasashii desu. I don't remember doing that in here.
Yeah, I don't either.
But anyway, let's go ahead and do this first. So I'm going to let everybody read what they wrote themselves. So, どうぞ。
今日図書館に本を読みに行きました。
はい、いいですね。
大学に日本語を勉強しに行きます。
はい。
喫茶店へ食べに行きます。
はい。
うちに食べに帰ります。
はい。いいですね。
Me too.
Well, because everyone did tabe, so I was like, all right, I gotta do something else, and then I did that one.
Okay. Okay, and これは
食堂に食べに行きます。
はい。いいですね。Okay, and since it's still up there, Sarah, you want to read the other one that's over there?
I would love to be able to read it, but as I do not have my glasses on.
You want to come closer?
I just see blurry lines.
Right, yeah, believe me, I
But my
understand.
dad's like,
I
can't even see lines when I take one out. Yeah, I just see like a very bit of black.
Yeah, Yama. はい。遊び。
遊びに行きました。
はい。
それからマリアさんのうちに晩ご飯を食べに
Yeah. 来ました。
Oh wait, ni is a particle.
Yeah, the particle ni, and then kimashita as in he's standing in Maria's house saying this, so he
That's
came
weird.
to
What's up with
Maria's
the
house.
go near the bond? Like a line.
Ban gohan.
Some are really weird like that.
Yep.
Ban gohan. Oh, he does a very high bent line. When you
Oh.
write go, a lot of people have a little bit more of a curve to that, and he writes it
It
higher
looked like
than
a she,
normal.
like ichi she.
Yeah.
So it looked like, I don't know, that's weird. Alright.
Yeah. Okay. Different people's handwriting. That's one good reason for practicing writing on the board, so you can start getting used to seeing other people's handwriting. Yeah. So. Okay. Any questions about how to use the stem ni iku kind of structure? Any questions about that stem, how to make the stem or how to use that structure for saying you're going somewhere for the purpose of doing something?
I get how it works, but when I translate it into English, it makes no sense. Like,
Yeah.
like directly.
Yeah, you can't do a literal translation.
Yeah.
You have, yeah, you come up with some very weird English if you do. Yeah, this is one of the many situations where a literal translation can get your point across, sort of, but to make a smooth translation, you really do have to change it further. So that's one of the pieces that's kind of part of the art of translation work. If you get into like translating novels or whatever, most people do their translation from the non-native language into their native language rather than the other way around, because in order to make the translation beautiful and eloquent and read comfortably for a native speaker, you kind of have to be a native speaker. And it's usually a multi-step process where you read the original sentence, you do a more literal translation first, and then you think about, now, how would a person in my country actually say this? And you think about, that kind of thing.
I like finding the bad translators who don't take the last step, and then you read it, and you're like,
Yeah. So yeah, but the literal translation is still usually better than Google Translate.
Never used
Yeah.
Google Translate.
Yeah, I mean, Google Translate is great for its humor value, but I wouldn't use it for serious translation work.
And what?
If you want a good laugh, sure, take something, translate it into some random language, and translate it back again into English,
There's this
and
one
it'll be
YouTuber.
hilarious.
There's this one YouTuber who takes songs. She puts it through like 10 layers of Google Translate, puts it back into English, and then sings them, and they're so bad. It's so funny.
Oh, God. Okay, so, hawa kirei de yasashii desu. Hawa kirei desu ga kawaii desu. Okay, so did we do like describing Melbourne or whatever town you want to do as a hometown? Do you guys remember doing that one in here or
No.
not?
I think this is where we
recall.
I don't remember.
Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and try these. So who wants to start? Volunteer?
Alright,
Hai, dozo.
where do I start?
Ichiban, my hometown. So you're gonna do either two adjectives connected by the te form, or you can do, if you want two adjectives that are more expressing contrast instead of similarity, then you can do desu ga in between the two. You see how if you're saying two nice things about somebody, kirei de yasashii desu. If you're saying one nice thing and one not so nice thing, kirei desu ga kawaii desu. She's beautiful, but she's kind of scary. See the difference? So if you want to say two nice things or two negative things about your hometown, you can use the te form connection. If you're saying one positive and one negative, you would do the contrasting one with desu ga. Make sense? Because that ga is like however. So it's this, but it's also that. Make sense? Oh.
私の町は小さくてつまらないです。
Right, that works. Right, Sierra-san, my country.
Would it be 私の国?
You could say that, or you could
Uh-huh.
say America, either one.
Oh, okay. 私の国は、yeah, I'll say that. 賑やかな、賑やかで、no, 賑やかが、
ですが、
ですが、ですが、
はい、ですが、
怖いです。
はい。いいですよ。はい、じゃあ、ベスニさん。3番。
So like if I were to say the class is small, could I use chisai for that, or was that not apply to that?
That can work, chisai, for like a small group of people, that
Okay,
works.
so 私の日本語のクラスは、小さくて楽しいです。
はい、いいですね。
弟は優しいですが静かじゃないです。
ああ、面白い。はい。じゃあ5番は、
日本人は面白いで。
はい、面白くて、
面白くて。I don't know what to say.
you want kind or,
I think that's what I was planning for earlier. So
yeah.
yes,
Okay.
Okay.
So 面白くて優しいです or 優しくて面白いです or 面白くて親切です right? or 親切で面白いです
My brain farted on what the positive present tense was, and I went, what's it?
yeah. So you've got lots of options
So
there.
日本人は面白
て、はい。
優しいです。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ、6番。
私の国の人は大きいですか？あなたが良くないです。
頭が、
あなたが良くないです。
頭。
頭が良くないです。
Okay, and
I was trying to
What-
say, I don't know,
oki as in
they're big.
big.
I wanted to say fat, but I don't know that word.
Oh, 太っています。
Okay. 太って
いますが。
太っていますか? Okay, so I don't use des there. I drop the
Right, you
verb.
drop the des because it's already a verb.
Okay.
太っています is a verb, so, and those are both sort of negative, so instead of ga, you could probably go with like 太っていて, and then,
Well, I wasn't thinking big was a negative in
okay.
that case.
They're just tall.
But,
They're
yeah.
just
Well, but
Oh, no, but it's
oki,
not gonna be.
oki is kind of an awkward one to use for people in that sense. Chisai and oki for a group works because you're basically saying large number of people or small number of people, right? But for talking about people's size, usually they would use either futoteru or yaseteru to describe people as fat or skinny, or like sega takai, sega hikui for tall and short. But they don't usually use the word big the way we do.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, if somebody's both tall and heavy, we tend to use the word big,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Japanese doesn't necessarily do that, I don't think.
They keep things up.
I'm trying to think. Sumotori wa ookii desu.
Sumo.
I
That's
don't,
what I thought.
it doesn't sound right to me. I don't think they really
Alright.
say it that way. I think that's a very American idiom to
Okay.
refer to people as being big, to mean both tall and fat.
Alright, so let me try it again, alright?
はい。
私の国の人は太っていますか? Well, I just said they're fat, so I have to say nice. So, 優しいです.
はい、that works.
I have to say something nice. I'll just call them nice.
It's funny. Okay. Yeah, depends on which politician you've been listening to lately, whether you have a good or
I
a
don't
bad
listen
view
to
of
Trump.
humanity, right?
Oh, yeah, true.
Because Americans are always nice.
Yeah.
We're fat and energetic.
Yeah. Okay. じゃあ Part D. So let's try the example dialogue to kind of get the idea of what we're doing. So, Brandon-san to Sierra-san, why don't you do the example?
Okay, so I just start from A?
A,
Okay.
はい。
家に犬がいますか?
はい。
どんな犬ですか?
小さいて。
小さく
Oh,
て
sorry. My brain skipped over it. 小さくて可愛いです。
かわいい。
可愛いです。Not scary, sorry. 可愛いです。
そうですか.
はい、いいですね。
Small cute dog. I love that. Okay. Let's do this. Yeah, I do. I have pictures and videos of my dog.
じゃあ1番、シエラさんとベスネイさん、どうぞ。
So how did they do, like the example they gave you was just
Okay, so they gave you
then,
家に犬がいますか and then どんな犬ですか So basically
they give you
they're-
both questions.
they're
and
giving
person
you the
has to-
two
okay.
questions and then the other person
Answer both of them.
responds to those questions and then you just end with そうですか Oh really?
And then the conversation just awkwardly ends because they have no more questions.
Right.
Love that. Okay.
Well, they didn't want it to go on forever, I guess.
Yeah, I just feel like we've gotten so many like questions that it's like really hard to like. The only way to propel a conversation is to continuously ask questions. We can't just like. I don't know. It's kind of strange. All right, doku ka. Oh wait, doku kara kimashita ka. What? What does that mean? Doku kara.
where did you come from?
はい。
Oh, okay.
As in, like, where is your hometown? Where are you from?
Mm. Yeah, I guess I do need that vocab. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
アメリカから来ました。
どんな町 or is
Or
it-
Donna Kuni, since she
Alright.
said her country name.
はい、どんな国ですか？
大きくて元気です。
にぎやかです for
にぎやか
a place.
Yeah.
Genki is more for a person.
Yeah, I thought afterwards, like, because we
Yeah.
were talking about, like, lively people.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so. 大きくてにぎやかです。
Hey, that works. And then you end with
そうです。
そうですか?
Oh, そうですか? Okay, is that right?
Yeah, そうですか? Is that so? Something like that. Yeah. And by the way, if you did want to continue the conversation instead of just ending it because it's a short exercise, you could volunteer information. If you don't want to ask another question, then another strategy would be to volunteer information about
Your
the
country.
same topic, like your
Mhm.
own country.
Okay.
You
That
know,
makes
so you
sense.
could do something like, そうですか? 私は, you know, カナダから来ました or whatever.
I
you
wish.
know.
Canada.
My friend, I know two Canadian singers. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that my one friend who's Canadian has a white Hummer that's raised with flames on the side. And really loud speakers with 2 batteries to power them.
Wow.
That's a life I
It's a
want.
very interesting car. You hear it coming from a mile away.
I'm sure, yeah. Okay, but yeah, so to answer that question about how you would make this into a more realistic, lifelike kind of conversation, that's a strategy that you can use. And of course, you could also ask more questions after that. You know, hopefully, the other person would ask you some questions if you volunteer what country or what town you're originally from. You know, or like, since she said America jin desu, you know, America kara kimashita, you could say, oh, watashi mo America jin desu, and then say what town you're from. Watashi wa New York kara kimashita. And then, Destiny-san wa doko no machi kara kimashita ka? You know, what town are you from? You know, so there are lots of things you can do.
And then
With
it
what-
ends in a brawl. I think we fight for sure.
Yeah. Who would win?
You.
Yeah.
I'm too tired.
I'm what?
I'm too tired. I feel so bad. I feel like Sensei's like looking at me. She's like, are you gonna make it? I'm like, no, it's sumimasen. Nemui.
眠いですか? Okay. じゃあどうぞ次やってみましょ
2番。
う。はい。
パソコンを持っていますか？
はい、持っています。
どんなパソコンですか？
小さくて便利です。
はい、いいですね。And then そうですか? そうですか?
Yeah, someone keep
そう
forgetting.
ですか?
Yeah.
Like,
It's not right in front of my face, I forget it, because they have the
Right.
2 questions, like, that's all I gotta
Right.
say.
Yeah.
It's
Just
not,
the
it's
K.
not all I gotta say.
はい。
そう。好きな人がいますか？どんな人ですか？
かっこよくて、
はい。
忙しい。
はい。
そうですか。
So is that supposed to be like, do you like someone?
Yeah. Yeah, that one, and that does have that same implication of like somebody you would like to date. That
Okay.
it implies the same thing in both languages.
Okay.
You
That's
know,
cute.
Is there somebody you like? You know.
What are we, middle schoolers?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting in Japanese culture. This may be changing now, but from as far as I recall, middle and high school students in Japan mostly don't date. Partly, I think, just because the academic load is so drastically oppressive that there's no time to have much of a social life. And so the closest to dating most Japanese high schoolers get to is going out in groups that include equal numbers of guys and girls. And if they're sitting around a table together, they might sit so that they're paired off, a girl on this side, guy on that side, or whatever. But it's never really allowed to get to a real one-on-one dating kind of situation, partly because the parents don't want to let them do that when they're still in high school. And
Smart
partly,
parents.
yeah,
that's really
and
funny.
partly because, like I said, no time.
Yeah. I did in pretty
So
good
a
time.
lot of the cultural stuff that we think of as being sort of typical for high school in this country are more typical for college in Japan. And the whole sort of time schedule of when people date and how long they date and when they get married is a little bit condensed compared to this country, because they also still have that feeling that you really ought to be getting married in your 20s. And if you're 30 plus and you're still not married yet, like, is there something wrong? How come you're not married yet? You know?
What's
That's
really funny
Gonna be
is that
me.
I called my boyfriend Isagashi, and
Yeah.
he is very Isagashi.
Yeah,
Like, we've been dating since October,
yeah.
and we haven't actually gone on a date because he's too busy because he does crew.
Oh, God.
And so he practices every day and has a race like every 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then I have band on top of that and a whole bunch of clubs that I'm captain of, so our schedules never match up.
Wow. Yeah, so, and that's actually fairly descriptive of how it often is in Japan, that two kids who are in high school might kind of be boyfriend and girlfriend in the sense that they like each other and they spend as much time together as they can, but they never get to actually go on a date. And that actually is the case in that Poppy Hill movie. Oh, you have to go. Okay, so I guess Audrey gets to do another one with Brendan.
Okay. 週末何をしています何をしますか
Shimashita.
何をしましたか
Arubaito o, no, the
Yeah,
arubaito
arubaito o.
or ni, right?
Well, it depends. Do you want to say ni ikimashita or o shimashita?
Oh, okay, but it says to work for and you put ni.
Oh,
Confused.
well, stomeru usually means like the actual, like the name of the company or ginko or yubinkoku or something like that. So instead of
Okay.
saying arubaito, you would probably say like what kind of company it is.
Or just like kaisha,
Restaurant.
right?
What's that?
Kaisha?
Kaisha ni shitomemashita or shitometemashita, or like if it's like a restaurant where you work part-time, it could be something like a restaurant ni shitometemashita.
Okay, so you do a part-time job and you work at a company.
Yeah.
Okay, alright,
Does that help?
right. So then I just do kaisha ni tsutome temashita.
Hi.
It's hard to say that.
どうでしたか
難しくて楽しくないです。
楽しくなかったです.
Ah, we're doing
Because
past
we're
tense.
doing past tense on this one.
楽しくなかったです。
Right. And then you answer with? Audrey's hand. The
Oh,
final
oh.
line.
No one's gonna get it.
そうですか. Those kinds of comments, although they seem like little throwaway lines, are actually really important culturally in Japan. Japanese kind of needs you to acknowledge that you're still listening. That's like a component of the language that's really important. Anytime one person is talking, the other person is usually, like, after almost every sentence in some cases, doing something to acknowledge that they're still hearing, they're still understanding, they're still paying attention to what you're saying. So you listen to like even a phone conversation in Japanese, and the other person's like talking a lot, and the person on your end of the phone is just saying, "Hai,そうですか. Ah, そうですね. Oh, 本当ですか?" You know, and you just hear lots and lots of those little kinds of comments throughout the conversation, even if the other person is doing all the monologue. It's really interesting. And then you know, if the person you're listening to asks a question or something, then they might be like, ah, そうですか, どうでしたか? How was it? And the other person's like, blah, 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 blah. あ、本当ですか? そうですか. 大変でしたね. You know, and just all the time. Listen to conversations, even in anime, and you'll notice that it happens a lot. じゃあ、どうぞ. Let's finish this out.
休みにどこに旅行しましたか？
山に行きましたか？行きました。Yeah.
So,
I didn't even hear what she said.
山に行きました.
I wish. I want to.
So just say どんな街ですか?
Or, since it wasn't a machi, you could say,
Yeah.
どうでしたか?
どうですか?
きれい。でした。I mean, wait.
You can do
Sorry,
きれい
きれい
で。
でが寒いです。
あ、
寒
かったです。
寒かった。That's right, it's past tense. 寒かったです。Okay.
いいですね。And then you end with,
そうですか?
はい、いいですね。
本当ですか?
本当ですか?
はい。
はい。じゃあ、歌舞伎を見に行きます。So let's look at this next structure, which is like what you guys did for your warm-up. Okay, so place ni, direct object o, and then the verb that you would usually use with that object takes the stem structure, which is just the mas form minus the mas, ni ikimasu.
What they did up here?
Yeah, like what we did on the board.
Okay.
So you want to read the example one first?
Yep, I do. Okay. スーさんは京都に歌舞伎を見に行きます。
はい、見に行きます. So she's going to go to Kyoto in order to watch kabuki.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's her purpose for going to Kyoto this trip, is she's got tickets to go see kabuki. Make sense?
Yeah, now she's explained it. I was like, a lot of things going on in here.
Yeah. So that's what this structure is doing. It's talking about
You're going somewhere in order to do something.
in order to do something, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Bethany-san, we'll let you do ichiban.
図書館に本を借りに行きました。
はい。
私は、昼ご飯を食べに食堂に行きます。
Okay, so usually you would put the shokudo ni first,
Okay.
and then hiru gohan o tabe ni ikimasu.
So,
You can switch it around like that, but it feels a little awkward.
okay. So that would be
Yeah, if you say hiru gohan o tabe ni shokudo ni ikimasu, putting it in that order puts a lot more emphasis on the shokudo. Like you're highlighting the fact that when you want to eat lunch, you go to the shokudo, you don't go elsewhere. Do you see what I'm saying?
So it would be 食堂に昼ご飯を食べに行きます。
はい.
Okay.
That gives less emphasis to the shokudo and puts a little bit more of a natural level sound to the whole sentence, that you're not overemphasizing the shokudo, you're saying you're going to the shokudo in order to eat lunch.
Okay.
Instead of, when I want to eat lunch, I go to the shokudo. You know, you see what I'm saying about the feel of the two versions?
Yeah,
It,
郵便局に切手を買いに行きます。
はい。郵便局に切手を買いに行きます。いいですね。じゃあ、シエラさん。
私は公園に写真を撮りに行きます。
Except that toru is what kind of verb?
撮る It's a
What's the mas form?
It's a U verb.
Yeah.
So it changes, so it'd be a 撮りに。
はい。取りに行きます。
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
はい。いいですね。じゃあどうぞ。
友達のうちに勉強しに wait
しに、yeah.
okay 勉強しに行きました。
はい。Went to your friend's house to study. はい。
街へ遊びに行きます。
はい、そうですね。Notice that since asobu doesn't normally take a direct object, you just leave that part out. 遊びに行きます。はい。
Using the same verb.
はい。
デパートに靴を買いに行きます。
はい、そうですね。It just worked out that way. はい、じゃあ、シエラさん。
ここに映画を
映画、
Oh,
英語。
sorry, 英語をyeah, I'm losing it. 映画を
英語を。
Oh my gosh. Save her. 英語を教え what's the
教える changes to 教えます。
just 教えます。So it's 教え、no, 教えに行きます。
教えに行きます。はい。
Oh, I hate that.
英語を教えに行きます。
Okay.
So she's going to the high school for the purpose of
Being taught English. Or teaching English.
Teaching English.
Sorry, I was thinking, because like, I always associate 教えて, like, you know, like,
Like,
teach
教えて
me.
ください.
Yeah.
Please teach me.
And so I'm always just like assuming that whoever is the sentence it is, they want to be taught something, because that's
No.
me.
But it's
Yeah.
英語を教えに行きます. So she's going for the purpose of teaching English at the high school. はい。大丈夫。次、どうぞ。
喫茶店にコーヒーを飲みに行きます。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ、Part B, you get to fill in the blank with whatever you think the purpose ought to be.
死ね。
コンビニにお茶を買いに行きます。
はい、いいですね。buy tea at the コンビニ。はい、いいですね。
I don't know what to put in this blank.
東京に What kinds of things can you think of that you might go to Tokyo to do? Visit a friend, watch a movie, Tokyo Disneyland.
All right, let's just do.
I'll go to Tokyo for you if you need me, so I can tell you all the things that I'm gonna go to.
You want to do this one still?
Okay, you can trade if you want. Let him do Toshokan.
Okay. 東京に喫茶店でコーヒーを飲みに行きました。
Okay. Okay, Sanban, you want to do Toshokan?
はい。図書館に本を読みに行きます。
はい, that works.
Could I do 家に寝に帰ります?
Yes, that works.
That sounds
Go
weird,
home
but
to sleep. Yeah, it does sound odd. Because we're not used to it being only one syllable
Yeah,
there.
but
Neni, neni kairu. So yeah, returning home for the purpose of sleep. That sounds like what Stiara
She's
would
ready.
like very much.
My body's ready.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, Audrey-san,
So,
you want to do Goban?
大学にテストをし、
取る。テストを取る。
取る。Okay,
Test, you take a test instead of do a test.
okay, okay. So テストを取りに
行きました。
に
に来ました。はい。テストを取りに来ました。Yeah, came to college to take a test.
so, great thing to go to college for.
The end is within sight.
Right. Okay, let's look at C. Okay, so same kind of concept. Here we're just turning it into little dialogues. Okay, so Audrey and Brandon, you want to read the example for us to get started?
トムさんは友達のうちに何をしにいますか
しに
行きますか
遊びに行きます。
はい. Please note, up until now, whenever we've had a question word question, the question word was the only thing that got deleted and changed out for a noun that answered the question, right? Now, we're actually going to take out the verb, nani o shi ni, that whole phrase gets changed out for whatever the verb or direct object plus verb phrase is appropriate. So you see how in the example, since asobu doesn't take an object, it's just asobi ni ikimasu. He's going in order to have fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see how that works?
Yeah.
So the nani o shi ni ikimasu ka, the suru verb, the shi part of shi ni ikimasu, is sort of the generic verb that lets you be open-ended. What are you going there to do? But your answer is going to incorporate whichever verb is appropriate. I'm going there to play, I'm going there to eat, I'm going there to do whatever. You see what I'm saying? And if a direct object is appropriate, you're going to stick that in. Make sense? じゃあ、ブランドンさん、一番の聞いてください。So you're just doing the question.
I believe in you.
Alright, so Ken さんは図書館に何をしに行きますか？
That's exactly right.
本を借りに
借りに、
借りに行きます。
はい、借りに行きます。Because 借りる is to borrow, 借ります。So,
Sorry, I was-
本を借りに行きます。
Katie is to go
Katie,
home. It's
yeah.
just on the mind.
Right, okay. You're just too tired. Okay, じゃあ2番どうぞ. See if you can figure out that question.
Okay. ポールさんは喫茶店に何をしに行きましたか？行きますか？
コーヒーを飲みに行きます。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ3番どうぞ。
マリアさんはデパートに何をしに行きますか？
お土産を買いに行きます
はい、そうですね。
メアリさんはうちに何をしてに帰り
に
何をしに帰りますか
はい、
食べ物を食べに行きます。
はい、食べに
帰ります。
帰ります。There you go. She's going home. 食べに帰ります。And if you didn't want to say 食べ物, you could just as easily put in like 晩ご飯 or ご飯を食べに帰ります. Because ご飯 by itself means meal. So you could do tabemono, food, you could do gohan, meal, you could do the specific type of meal, asa gohan, hiru gohan, ban gohan. So you've got a bunch of choices there. いいですね。じゃあ5番どうぞ。
リオボさんはお寺に何をしに行きますか？
写真を撮りに行きます。
はい、いいですね。Yay, you're doing great, Sarah.
Thanks.
You're keeping yourself awake and you're functioning.
I'm functioning somehow. It's a pure miracle right now. I can't.
Well, just let me point out that if you can do this stuff when you're sick or tired or not functioning at full capacity, that's a really good sign.
I've been studying.
That you know it better than you thought you did, probably, because if you're able to do it when your brain is not fully functional, think about how much better you can do when you're functioning at normal power, right?
I hope so. I really do.
And that's really an important thing to know about yourself because, and about your Japanese ability, because when you get to Japan, between jet lag, homesickness, culture shock, possibly allergies or catching colds or whatever, there are going to be lots of times when you're not functioning at full capacity, but you're still going to need to be able to deal with getting yourself to the train station, getting yourself to the places you need to go, you know, perhaps even dealing with the Japanese medical system in Japanese, because you may or may not be in a place that has an English-speaking doctor in the clinic, you know. So it's really good to know that you can push through the exhaustion and still function in Japanese.
Oh no.
Because there are going to be times when, you know, things are less than ideal and you want to still be able to function, right? I'm just checking time because I don't have a working
It's
clock
like
on
40
the wall.
past.
Yeah, so we can squeeze in a little bit more.
Maybe this last section.
Yeah, let's see if we can do this section 6 a little bit. So this is talking about numbers of people. So nannin imasu ka? Okay. So quick review. Do you remember if you wanted to say that you went to the post office to buy stamps, you guys just had that sentence, that would be
So it's
Yubin
Kyoku
Kyoku ni
Kitte
Kitte o
Kai
kai ni ikimashita, right? Or ikimasu or whatever.
But you put whatever number, like
Right,
nanmai.
and so if you wanted to add in the number of stamps that you were going there to buy, let's say you want to buy 6 stamps,
Rokumai.
so you would put rokumai right in here, right? Yeah, everybody remember that? So, yubin kyoku ni kitte o rokumai kai ni ikimasu. Make sense? So, when you're talking about people, the basic sentence, like there are women in the room, would be Hea ni
Onna no hito.
onna no hito, and then the particle would be
Ga
ga,
imasu.
and then the verb is imasu, right? So that's your basic structure, right? And please note that the gap for how many is in the same spot
Right
in
after the
relation to the
particle.
other parts of the sentence, even though it's a different particle because it's a different verb, right?
That's like right after the particle, right before the verb.
Yeah.
Always.
So you'd use
Okay, so-
nannin.
Yeah, so you could say, "Onna ga nannin imasu ka?" if you're asking the question, and then let's say we're using this room right now as the example, you could say,
3人。
Okay, you don't want to count me?
No, not a person.
I'm giving you a hard time, so,
You
okay,
messed up.
just for the sake of argument, we'll use sannin imasu. Hi.
Oh, so in the language lab, Ellie made a question.
grandma
did that
She
to
used
me
a
before.
ni, me, and then
What?
des
My grandma did that
instead
to me
of
before.
mas, and she
It's
like
like, there's
added
only two
me
women
after
here, and I'm sitting right
the
next
ni
to her. It's like,
part. I don't know why.
She's actually not counting me because I'm a 10-year-old child.
Okay.
Maybe younger, probably like 3.
I'll have to see the whole sentence to know.
It was like, anata no kazoku wa
Nannin desu ka?
nan,
we're almost in the
nani
clay.
me desu ka? Yeah, that was it. I don't know why they put the me there.
The me is incorrect.
Okay.
She's getting herself confused
They,
with the different grammar structure.
Yeah, the Chinese guy who
Yeah.
claims to know Japanese.
Yeah.
He said that the me goes in there, but like,
No.
so everybody got confused then.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look to be sure, but it doesn't sound right.
But I just told you
Isn't
the
it
real
nice?
sense.
Nice.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
nannin imasu ka
Look at my leg
or
here.
nannin desu
How
ka
long
would
is it?
both work.
All right.
Yeah, mine was
the
like
yeah,
that
me
like
doesn't
last
make any
week, and
sense.
I
Yeah,
was
the,
like,
the
okay.
me
start
is
wearing
for
shorts again.
counting.
Got it.
Not
Like,
me.
hitotsume, futatsume would be like the first thing, the second
I
thing.
understand.
Not with
completely.
people.
Well, hitorime,
It's so
futarime,
complicated.
sanninme would be like the first person, the second person, the third person, if you're counting, like,
Oh, for counting.
like in order. Like, if you're standing in line or something, if you're the third person in line, you would be sanninme. Does that
Okay,
make sense?
Yeah.
That
all right.
me is for counting in order. It's not appropriate for the
Saying,
question,
how many family
nannin
members do you have?
desu ka? Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so let's make a distinction here. Onna no hito ga 4人います, right? 女の学生が3人います. See the distinction? And you guys know all those kanji.
Wait. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, isn't that cool? So.
So the exception, like, huta.
Okay, so the two weird ones,
Or
pronunciation-wise,
is it one
are
person and then 2
hitori, futari. Hitori, futari.
Why?
Why? Because hitotsu, futatsu are from the original Japanese numbers way of counting.
Mm.
And so that one continues on to 10, but for whatever reason, when you're counting people, they start out in this system and then they switch at the 3.
Is
So the 2 is for counting things, but when you're counting people, the 2 gets replaced, and it's pronounced ri, but it's this kanji.
so
Hi. Okay, well, okay, one at a time. Hi.
oh so I forget. So and then the next one when counting with Tsu was Mitsu,
Hi,
right?
mitsu.
So that mean that he, fu, mi is like the old way of counting, if that makes any sense of what I'm trying to get at? Like the he, the fu, and the mi are all the old, like,
Yeah, hitori, hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu, yotsu, itsutsu. There's a set that goes up to 10 that is the Japanese origin numbering system.
I know a song with like that.
Yeah, whether there were ever more than 10 or not, I really don't know. Korean goes to 99 with their original set, as well as going way beyond that with their Sino-Korean numbers. But I don't know for sure if Japanese used to have higher than 10 and they just fell out of use, or if Japan was still that primitive that when they first encountered China, they hadn't counted past their 10 fingers yet, so they just adopted Chinese numbers and said, okay, we don't need to invent another way of counting. I really don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if anybody does know, actually. But, hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu, yotsu, itsutsu, mutsu for 6, nanatsu, nanatsu, yatsu, kokonotsu, to, And those are in your book. You can reference them in that back chart that has all kinds of number stuff. So you can find those back there. But yeah, it's just these first two that are the weird ones. And then after that it goes to sannin is a normal pronunciation. Yonin uses yo instead of yon. But after that, they're all standard pronunciations with nin, except that anytime it ends in a 4, they still do yo instead of yon.
Oh, I'm trying to think of like situations in which you would actually use this besides like our book work. And like if you were to go to a restaurant and they were to ask you like how many. Do you
There's
use
a
that?
special case because
Great, awesome,
yeah,
that's great.
nan me sama, sorry, sama desu ka? Nan me sama desu ka is like formal, extra polite, being honorific toward the customer question form for how many people. Nan me sama desu ka? And then if you've only got 2 people in your party, you could say futari desu. Okay?
Okay, so
If
you
you've
do
got
use
3 people, you would use this, yes. You would
Okay.
say sannin desu, or yonin desu, or however many people are in your group. And they would confirm it by using their me-sama structure. So, so it would be like, oh, ni me-sama desu ne, and they would grab 2 menus. So they would use a different system to confirm what you said, but you would use these numbers, like we're learning, to answer the question. Isn't that interesting? Because
Yeah.
what's happening here is you've got a wait person, okay, and you've got a customer, and because you're the customer, they are putting you on a pedestal. They are being honorific toward you. You don't have to be equally honorific toward them. You can be neutral, polite to them. And we get into a lot more of this hierarchical politeness stuff as we go along with Japanese, but there's lots of it. So far, we've kind of been mostly just dealing with, people as equals. どこへ行きますか? 図書館へ行きます. Equal level of politeness for question and answer, right? As we go forward, in our next chapter, we're going to start learning casual speech, which allows you 2 options. One is to keep it equal and both people use casual speech. One is to have a disparity where one person's using casual and the other is using formal. And that would be a case usually where the person who is lower status would use the more formal speech, and the person who's higher status would use casual speech. So for example, if you're watching an anime that has teachers and students interacting with one another, you may notice that within the classroom, usually both the teacher and the students will use neutral polite or honorific polite language. But outside of the classroom, very often the teacher will switch to casual, but the students are still going to use honorific polite or at the minimum neutral polite. And depending on how formal or intimidating that teacher is, students may feel compelled to use more honorific language. So, and there can be a 1 to 2 level gap between what the teacher uses and what the student uses. And in Korean, sometimes it's an even bigger gap. Korean actually has a more extreme form of that than Japanese does. It's pretty interesting stuff. So, and it really does make a difference in the whole feel of the conversation. And then there are all kinds of fine-tuning gradations that you can do once you get more advanced with it, where you can do an honorific verb in a casual conjugation to indicate that you're being honorific toward this person, even though you also feel very close to them, like you really care about them, you feel like they're special to you.
Could it be like your parent or something, like you're
More
still showing
likely-
respect?
More likely a teacher who's also sort of a family friend, somebody you feel like you're very affectionate toward this person, but they're still your teacher.
Okay.
How do you say that again?
Which part?
No, 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 Gakusei, is that what that is?
Ononogakuse.
Okay, is that? I was like, I feel like there was a special way you said it, but no, it's literally just. That's
yeah.
the thing that people call
Yeah,
female
female
students.
students, yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
That's
So, and
weird.
otoko no gakuse, otoko no hito, that works. And you can also do like Amerikajin no gakuse.
So what would it be like for an all-girls school? Do they have a specific name for that?
Probably, like if it's an all-girls high school, for example, Joshi Koko. Yeah, Joshi would be onna kanji plus, I wanna say the kodomo kanji, Joshi.
That's weird.
Um,
I think we're,
So,
I think we're the
Yeah.
conversation regarding onna no gakuseis, because like earlier when we were first learning the male and female kanji, you demonstrated like danshi gakusei as an example of like
Yeah.
like one of the weird uses of the
Yeah.
dan pronunciation.
Yeah, so danshi gakuse, joshi gakuse would be male student, female student, in a little bit more formal style of saying it. Generally speaking, if you're using the onyomi and multiple kanji, that is a little bit more formal, more like literary or, you know, like formal written kind of style versus using, this is a kunyomi, onna, and using the no in there. Yeah, so that giving it a more of a Japanese sound makes it more colloquial, a little bit more conversational. Giving it a whole lot of kanji with onyomi for all of it kind of makes it more literary. And it can still be used in conversation sometimes, but makes it sound a little bit more like highfalutin language, you know?